Welcome to Woven in True Crime, where we unravel real stories that defy understanding and explore the limits of trust and betrayal. In today's episode, we present a dark case that shocked communities and captured the nation's attention. This is the story of Jack Peterson, a man whose kindness and faith in humanity led him to a tragic fate. While the names have been changed to protect identities, the events you are about to hear are real. Prepare for a narrative marked by manipulation, mystery, and a quest for justice that raised more questions than answers. This is a case that, to this day, remains shrouded in shadows. The morning of July 11, 2011, began like any other at the Sunset Lodge Motel, a discreet spot on the outskirts of Camden, New Jersey. Housekeepers went about their usual routines, checking rooms and arranging linens. However, as they approached room 305, something seemed off. The door remained locked, and although the checkout time had passed, the guest did not respond to calls. A sense of unease overcame one of the staff members, who exchanged a worried glance with her colleague before knocking on the door. With no response, they decided to try the last option, the master key. Unlocking the door and pushing it open slowly, a wave of stagnant air escaped from inside. The room was chaotic. Clothes were scattered, objects were overturned, and the tension mounted with every step toward the bathroom. It was then that one of the housekeepers, trying to quell her fear, saw the garbage bags piled in the corner of the small tiled area. Something felt wrong, the way they were arranged, heavy and sealed. Trembling, she opened one of the bags, and what she saw made her step back, releasing a sharp scream that echoed through the silent motel corridors. Inside the black plastic, horror materialized in dismembered body parts. The instinctive reaction of despair and panic overtook the scene. The housekeepers ran outside, eyes wide, hearts racing with a frantic beat. Within minutes, the police arrived at the scene, mobilized by the gravity of the situation. The team of detectives, led by Charles Moreno, a veteran known for his composure and efficiency, entered room 305. He analyzed the scene with a clinical eye, taking in every detail, the disorder, the metallic smell of blood, the signs of a struggle. It was evident this was not a common crime. The officers began to secure the area, taking photos and collecting samples as Moreno, arms crossed and brow furrowed, contemplated the brutality of the act. In the corner of the bathroom, bags still closed hinted at more macabre secrets, but the absence of the head and fingers was what puzzled the investigators. Without these parts, identifying the victim would be an immediate challenge. Outside, a small crowd of onlookers began to gather. The news of a violent crime spread like wildfire in Camden, a city that, while accustomed to stories of violence, rarely encountered something of this magnitude. Moreno knew the case would not only test his skills but also the patience of a community hungry for answers. But what no one could predict was that this would only be the beginning of one of the most disturbing crimes Camden had ever witnessed. Jack Peterson was known in Trenton, New Jersey, for his calm nature and innate kindness. At 32, he balanced a day job as an IT technician with a night job as a security guard. Since the early death of his mother, he stayed close to family and friends, who often mentioned his generosity as a notable trait. However, this same generosity made him vulnerable, a characteristic that would reflect in choices marking his destiny. Jack had always longed to build a shared life, and in 2007, an opportunity arose when he met Vanessa Rodriguez in an online tech forum. What began as casual exchanges of messages soon turned into a deep virtual relationship. Vanessa was charismatic, knew how to captivate with words, and seemed to understand Jack in a way few did. The relationship brought a new light to Jack's life. He devoted time and energy to Vanessa, sending gifts and providing financial help as proof of his commitment and hope for a future together. Although friends and colleagues noticed his unwavering dedication, some were concerned about the intensity of his attachment to someone he had never met in person. Jack, however, believed the distance was just a temporary obstacle. As time passed, Jack began sharing plans for a move, saying that Vanessa encouraged him to relocate upstate, where they could start a new life. For him, this was more than a dream, it was a promise that seemed on the verge of coming true. In July 2011, with his decision made, Jack quit his job, sold some of his belongings, and prepared for the move. The impact of Jack's disappearance, shortly after what should have been the start of a new chapter, shocked the Trenton community. The discovery of a dismembered body in Camden stirred a whirlwind of questions. Friends and family remembered Jack as someone who would never arouse suspicion of being in danger, a trustworthy man with an open heart. But now, he became the center of a violent and unsettling mystery. As the days went by, details of the case began to emerge. Authorities, determined to uncover the truth behind the tragedy, faced pressures and a puzzle that grew more intricate. What began as a search for a missing man evolved into something much more sinister. However, as the days passed, the first clues began to surface, revealing a mystery far more complex than anyone could have imagined. The discovery of the dismembered body in room 305 at the Sunset Lodge Motel mobilized the Camden police in an investigation that quickly made headlines. Detective Charles Moreno led the team, determined to solve the mystery that was beginning to haunt the city. The absence of the victim's head and fingers made identification a challenge, forcing the police to look for other means of recognition. The initial analysis revealed disturbing details: a broken lamp, blood leading to the bathroom, and partially erased fingerprints in a failed attempt to hide evidence. However, one detail caught Moreno's attention: a mint candy wrapper and a hairbrush left behind. He knew that any clue could be the key to solving the case. The news quickly reached TV stations, and a local program displayed the clothes found in the motel. Shortly after, an urgent call was made to the station. A woman claimed she recognized the clothes and said they belonged to her nephew, Jack Peterson, who had left on the night of July 10 intending to meet someone important and had not returned. The investigation team used this lead to confirm that Jack was missing. Family and friends helped create a clearer picture of him, a man with an open heart and easy trust, who rarely got into trouble. Moreno realized that the story had layers not yet explored. As clues accumulated, the investigation pointed to a potential twist. The next day, a closer analysis found footprints that did not belong to Jack and a faint fingerprint on a water bottle. Surveillance cameras at the motel, despite low resolution, showed two individuals entering separately and leaving at times close to the discovery of the crime. The police traced the source of the candy wrapper and hairbrush to a nearby supermarket. The security camera footage showed a couple shopping. Although the video quality made identification difficult, it was an indication that an accomplice might be involved. Tension in Camden increased. The constant media coverage amplified the pressure on Moreno and his team to solve the case quickly. Jack's face, once seen as an ordinary worker from Trenton, now symbolized the mystery and fear gripping the city. Conversations at street corners and dinner tables echoed the same questions: who could have planned something so brutal? And why? But what the police found next would turn the search for Jack into a dark and complex mystery, far beyond what anyone could have imagined. As the investigation advanced, Charles Moreno's team connected the emerging clues. The mint wrapper and hairbrush found in the motel room, along with the supermarket surveillance footage, became crucial. Moreno knew that any detail could be the key to solving the case. Cross-referencing the footage revealed a pattern, a couple acting with disconcerting calm. Although the low resolution made exact identification difficult, the clothes and movements were consistent. Moreno ordered a detailed analysis to identify the shoppers and trace their origin. Meanwhile, an analysis of Jack's computer, found at his home, revealed emails and social media messages documenting his conversations with Vanessa Rodriguez, the woman with whom he had maintained a long-distance relationship. Investigating Vanessa's background led to unsettling discoveries. She had a history of turbulent relationships and reports of emotional manipulation. Former acquaintances mentioned erratic behavior and her connection to Ruben Salazar, a taxi driver with a criminal record. Moreno began to consider that this case might be more than just a crime of passion, perhaps a premeditated plan. The breakthrough came when fingerprints found in the motel were identified as belonging to Ruben Salazar. Moreno felt the tension rise. The simplicity of the case had morphed into something darker, a conspiracy involving multiple actors. Ruben had been seen in areas near Trenton and Camden, raising suspicion that he had helped Vanessa orchestrate a cold and calculated plan. The Camden community, already shaken by the initial discovery of Jack's body, now faced the harsh truth that there were multiple layers of betrayal and violence. The media turned Vanessa and Ruben into public figures of interest. Witnesses reported seeing Ruben frequently in a taxi, with a cold gaze and calculated movements. The police team obtained a clearer image of Ruben from footage at a convenience store. Moreno knew he needed to act fast before the couple attempted to flee. Search warrants were issued, and police units were deployed to monitor border points. The next day, an anonymous call changed the course of the investigation. The informant reported seeing Vanessa at a bus terminal, nervously watching arrivals and departures. Moreno did not hesitate, every second counted. The team arrived quickly at the location, but Vanessa had already left, gaining precious minutes for herself and Ruben. The ensuing cat-and-mouse game kept Camden and Trenton on edge. In cafes and markets, conversations revolved around the case and theories about Vanessa and Ruben's whereabouts. Moreno knew he was close to capturing the final pieces of the puzzle but felt the weight of increasing pressure. And then an unexpected piece of evidence brought to light a long-buried secret, a secret no one was prepared to face. The search for Vanessa Rodriguez and Ruben Salazar reached its climax. The Camden police, with support from units in nearby towns, monitored strategic points and highways. Detective Charles Moreno felt the pressure to close the case, knowing the next few hours would be crucial. On the morning of July 15, a new lead emerged. A gas station surveillance camera in a nearby county captured Ruben refueling a taxi. Beside him, Vanessa, wearing sunglasses and her hair tied back, looked tense and distracted. Watching the footage, Moreno knew the net was tightening. The team tracked Ruben's cell phone signal, leading them to an industrial area on the outskirts of Camden. When the police arrived at an abandoned warehouse, they found evidence the couple had recently been there: food remnants, a hand-marked map, and a necklace that belonged to Jack Peterson. The place had an oppressive atmosphere, broken only by the distant hum of traffic. Moreno examined the necklace, anger and determination mixing in his expression. The pieces were finally coming together. Hours later, an urgent call reported a sighting of Ruben at a train station. The team moved quickly. Undercover officers surrounded the area and located Ruben running toward a platform. Before he could escape, he was intercepted. Ruben resisted briefly, but the trap was relentless. He was handcuffed, his face emotionless, devoid of any remorse. With Ruben in custody, the team knew they were close to uncovering the truth, but Vanessa was still the final piece. Ruben's interrogation revealed an address that led them to a low-budget motel in a nearby town. Moreno, aware this might be the last opportunity, led the operation himself. When the police broke down the motel room door, they found Vanessa sitting on the bed, staring out the window, resigned. She surrendered without resistance. During interrogation, Vanessa recounted her version in a cold and meticulous tone, each detail cutting through the silence like a blade. Jack never suspected, she said, her eyes void of remorse. She described how she had manipulated Jack for years, draining his savings to fund her life with Ruben. When Jack mentioned moving to be with her, she realized her lies had reached their limit. Ruben, driven by jealousy and the desire to protect their lifestyle, suggested a definitive solution. Vanessa described the night of July 10th with precision. She called Jack, pretending joy upon learning he was in Camden, and invited him to meet at a place she knew would be the end of his journey. Ruben was waiting in the adjacent room. Vanessa's voice, as she spoke, was emotionless, as if recounting a routine. Moreno felt a knot tighten in his chest. The case that had begun with an unidentified body now revealed a deep betrayal and a coldly calculated murder. The evidence was irrefutable. Vanessa's account, combined with physical evidence and Ruben's partial confession, provided the prosecution with a strong case. The capture of the two brought relief to Moreno's team and the community but left an air of disbelief. The city grappled with the harsh reality that someone like Jack, kind and trusting, could become the victim of such cruelty. But even with all the answers, a void remained, a shadow of doubt suggesting not all truths had come to light. The arrest of Vanessa Rodriguez and Ruben Salazar brought a mix of relief and anguish to Camden and Trenton. The case had gained national attention, and the story of Jack Peterson, an ordinary, kind man, deceived and betrayed by those he trusted most, shocked the country. As the investigation continued with the collection of additional statements and evidence, the city tried to process the brutality of the crime. News of Vanessa's confession and Ruben's role spread quickly, sparking varied reactions in the community. Friends and colleagues of Jack mourned the loss, recalling stories that highlighted his generosity and trust. There was a quiet sense of guilt among those who had, at some point, questioned the intensity of his relationship with Vanessa but never imagined it would end this way. Jack's funeral was a silent event, full of sorrow, with faces marked by shock and incomprehension. The trial attracted unusual media attention. Vanessa, serious and distant, remained impassive, while Ruben rarely raised his eyes. Prosecutors presented evidence with grim clarity, exchanged messages, financial transfer records, and a sequence of events that culminated in the tragedy. Witnesses, including former friends of Vanessa who recounted her manipulative behavior, painted an even more disturbing picture than what was already known. Vanessa's defense attorneys tried to mitigate her responsibility, claiming that Ruben had coerced her and that she was trapped in a situation she could not escape. Ruben, in turn, claimed that the idea was entirely Vanessa's, describing her as the mastermind behind the plan. The defense strategies clashed, exposing fractures in the defendant's narrative. The verdict was swift. Vanessa and Ruben were found guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and concealment of a body. Vanessa was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, while Ruben received 60 years, eligible for parole only after serving 85% of the sentence under New Jersey's No Early Release Act. The community, though relieved justice had been served, continued to wonder how someone like Jack, always willing to see the best in others, could become the center of such a dark scheme. In the weeks that followed, small memorials were set up in Trenton, where candles and photos of Jack kept the memory of a man whose kindness was his greatest vulnerability alive. Charles Moreno, now free from constant pressure, reflected on the case's twists and turns. The expression on Vanessa's face during the trial, impassive and enigmatic, still lingered in his mind. Something about the defendant's narrative left a sense that not all motivations were fully uncovered. Could others have known, or was there something still hidden? Moreno knew that, although the case was technically closed, questions would persist. Despite the evidence, one crucial detail still did not fit. Something was out of place, and perhaps the story wasn't over. Jack Peterson's case was officially over, but its impact continued to reverberate through Camden, Trenton, and beyond. The story of betrayal and manipulation that culminated in a brutal crime became a somber reminder of vulnerability and blind trust. Vanessa Rodriguez and Ruben Salazar were now imprisoned, their sentences declared and their images etched into collective memory. Yet the sense of closure did not bring complete relief. The media, eager for unexplored angles, speculated on the case's murky points. Reporters interviewed former acquaintances of Vanessa and Ruben, seeking clues pointing to accomplices or more complex motives. Rumors emerged that Ruben had been seen meeting with dubious figures in the weeks leading up to the crime, encounters that raised questions about the true scope of the conspiracy. Charles Moreno, now away from the spotlight, mentally reviewed every detail of the investigation. The encrypted document found among Ruben's belongings remained an enigma, filled with symbols and seemingly random codes. Experts consulted considered the possibility that it was merely a distraction, but Moreno's intuition suggested otherwise. There was a hidden pattern, waiting to be uncovered. As Moreno reviewed his notes under the dim light of his office, the streets of Camden and Trenton gradually returned to normal. However, conversations and theories continued. Rumors circulated about a possible invisible mastermind, someone who had manipulated Vanessa and Ruben as pawns in a larger scheme and was never identified. To many, Vanessa's cold behavior during the trial reinforced this possibility. Her calculated responses and distant gaze suggested that part of the truth remained untouched. Jack's community kept his memory alive with small acts of kindness in his name. Relatives and friends tried to turn the pain into positive action, supporting local shelters and organizing gatherings to remember his genuine kindness. Jack Peterson, whose open heart had been his greatest vulnerability, became a symbol of both trust and caution. Moreno couldn't shake the feeling that there was more behind the case. In a conversation with a longtime colleague, details about Ruben's visits to acquaintances with questionable backgrounds reignited his unease. Were these coincidences or signs of something darker? The meetings seemed ordinary, but their timing suggested they could be pieces of a bigger puzzle. That autumn night, Moreno closed the case file with a slow gesture, but the shadow of unanswered questions remained. The encrypted document continued to flicker in his mind as an unsettling reminder, an invitation to dig deeper. For now, the case was closed, but the restlessness lingered, whispering that the truth is not always clear. The media eventually tired of the story, and the towns resumed their usual rhythm. For Charles Moreno, however, Jack Peterson's case was an unfinished enigma, a shadow resisting oblivion. There was a void, a missing piece he couldn't ignore. Even today, the questions persist: what really happened that night? And were all the secrets truly revealed, or does something darker remain hidden?